Hey everyone, welcome back to the Promised Land podcast, a live episode of the podcast on YouTube. If you're in the comment section, please get in there. There's plenty to talk about on this episode of the podcast today. Manchester United out of the race, apparently, to sign Carlos Baleba, although maybe it's just not this summer that it's going to be happening. We have had the latest in the last hour or so, just before I've jumped on to record this, that they will not be proceeding with a move to sign the Brighton man before the end of the transfer window because he's too expensive. You'd maybe thought that they knew that he would be pretty expensive to begin with before they started that pursuit. But how do they react to this now? What do they do? Do they pivot to somebody else? Do they spend lots of money on another player that can do the job, but maybe not as well as the guy that they want in the long term? I don't know, but we will see how it goes. United play Arsenal on Sunday as well. Obviously, they need to make a statement in that. They will. There's a big chance that midfield area might be the part of the area that is exposed a little bit, and it might jam up, the need to go and sign one. So we'll see. For me, I hope that United do have a plan here, and I do hope that if they are putting hope and faith in a long-term pursuit of this player, that they actually stick to it. But they will need. I don't trust really at the moment that United will go into the season, do really well because they haven't signed this midfielder and be able to convince him down the line that this move should happen in a year's time, because he's probably going to cost the same amount of money in a year's time anyway, isn't he? But I'll talk about that on this episode of the podcast, a live episode, like I say, on YouTube. If you're in the live chat, please get in touch. I'll read some of those out as I go along. But if you're new to the podcast, if you're new to this stream, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. All the links in the description. Subscribe to the audio podcast as well if you've not done so already. Links are in the description. If, as well, you want to join the Fantasy Premier League, the Promised Land League that I have just sorted out today, due to somebody in my Twitter mentions, said, why don't you make one for the podcast audience? So I thought, why not? So that is in the description as well. Follow me on social at @_Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And yes, do subscribe if you're here on YouTube and watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like. Get in the comments as well, and we'll see where we go. But yes, Nathan is not on the live, but we will watch after. Enjoy the show. Hit the likes and subscribe. Subscribe, people. Much love. Shay is here. Time for Plan B. I don't like this font at all, so I'm just changing that. Hjulmand is next on the list. He might be. I think that's a bit of speculation at the moment. Mark says it's a bit of a joke, Scott. Suvik says, good call by the club. Baleba's great, but not worth 115 yet. That is Rice and Caicedo money, who had multiple top seasons in the Prem before they moved. Jonathan is here. Hi, Scott. Jarl again. I've also seen that we had our eyes on Stiller, who is Baleba level. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how United go here. Niche fan is here. Light. Thank you very much, mate. Niche fan again. Baleba's happening. I refuse to believe it's not. Demand Baleba. It could, we have seen crazier things happen in the past. We have seen crazy things happen. Jonathan Paul says, so had the dream signing -Q fan meltdown. That's probably the way that it's going to go. United, there is a way to spin this negatively. Obviously, United have wasted a week of their transfer window trying to do a deal that everybody could see would be too expensive, that is now deemed too expensive. And that is not an efficient use of time, I suppose, but it depends really on what they do from here. I think that's the important thing. How do they react to this? What I would like to see is do you need two midfielders? We've talked a little bit about Bruno Fernandes maybe leaving next summer. Casemiro will leave next summer. You're only left then with Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte. So maybe they do need two midfielders to, help this system out. And I'm looking at Carlos Baleba, and I think that the profile of the player in particular is exactly the perfect one. And I don't know how many players are out there at the moment with Premier League experience and this kind of thing that can offer the same things that he can. So I don't know. Get in the comment section, and I'll have a chat with you guys. Niche fan again. Ineos have completely and utterly led us up the garden path of we don't get Baleba. Suvik says, honestly, just want the football to start. Tired of the transfer talk. Me too, a little bit. Trophies are won on the pitch, not in July. That's true. I do think United, though, do need to sign a midfielder. I think that everybody's pretty clear on that. Absolutely. Jarl again says, I did see a few things yesterday that hinted this would never happen. When Whitwell says, most likely it won't happen. I believe him. Yeah, that's been the noise ever since the very beginning of this. Ever since the very beginning. people haven't really expected this to come out or like go along. United themselves and people within United, and the message has always been that this is unlikely. I was waiting for Manchester United to go and end up selling, selling some of the players that they need to sell. There's money to be raised for Garnacho, Jadon Sancho, Anthony, all those kinds of players, money to be saved on wages and that kind of thing as well. And I kind of thought really that United would be waiting to have decisions on those players before committing to a deal like this. But like, I'll run through what David Ornstein has just said in a second. But Niche Fan again here says, we were promised best in class, hollow words, sacked all the hard-working staff and haven't signed the one man we needed. Oh, come on, man. Like, I think you can't like throw everything out on the basis of they haven't gone and spent 120 million on a midfielder that everybody wants. It's going to take a long time, this. And as much as I'm disappointed, I thought this one would actually come off. I'm disappointed. I am. But you can't like throw that out the window, throw that trust out the window now, because what they have done to get to this point is good. The last thing you want to see is them being fleeced by Brighton, because that's what the other lot used to do. And that's the reason why United are in this mess. So that's the important thing. Right. Rugby Itch says, interested to see who United target for that midfield spot. Still hope United go for Baleba, even if we sign one this summer. Yeah, true. Like I just said, I think United might actually end up needing two midfielders anyway. Because you think of I've spoke about numerous times, potentially Bruno Fernandes, like maybe leaving at the end of the season. I think he had the chance to leave this summer for Saudi. I think that deal's still on the table. The noise has always been we might want to make a decision on where he goes next after the World Cup. Casemiro's going to leave. They can't shift him this year. Toby Collier's gone on loan today as well. So that's another midfielder down that they are. Toby Collier was in and around the squad. I think United will sign a midfielder because they're just too light in that area. But it's about what kind of deal they do. Do they go and try and hijack Douglas Luiz to Nottingham Forest on loan or something like that? Or do they go and sign Kamara, Goume, those kinds of players? I think from Seville or from Monaco. It will be interesting to see what United do from here. But it is important as well to think that they need a long-term plan, and they're probably going to need... Yeah, I think in the next year or two, they might end up needing two anyway. So, Niche Fan again says, with respect, how am I off base? Baleba will cost 120 million next season, and other clubs will come in for him. It was now or never. It might well be. But also, like, United could keep working on this. I'm not saying that this actually will happen, but what I would like to see now is they keep working on this and they try and kind of get an agreement ahead of time for next summer, maybe. Knowing that this is... If they actually think that Baleba wants to join, I have my own doubts on this, because I think there will be other clubs in better positions potentially next year to go and actually do this deal, put the money up and convince him, because their football projects are further along. But, we'll see. If what they're saying here, and I will read out what David Ornstein said on The Athletic in the last hour or so. Not even that. Manchester United are not planning to proceed with a move for Baleba before the transfer window closes. The 21-year-old Brighton midfielder has been United's top target to strengthen the number 6 position, and they held preliminary conversations about a deal. Talks initially took place with Brighton via intermediaries on behalf of United before the clubs had a direct conversation. So I'm guessing that is the difference, and that's what's changed. The level of money they've indicated it would take to consider a deal, around the 115 million Chelsea spent on Moises Caicedo, is beyond what United are willing to pay in the current market. So I think that's your big thing. I think we all thought that maybe United would be ending up breaking their transfer record at 100 million, but if they are pricing him at 115, it is a lot. It is a hell of a lot, and I think there are definitely people who would have, even some of you guys in the chat as well, there are definitely people who would have just said, throw the kitchen sink at it and get this deal done regardless. I've said something along the same lines, but if they're asking for 115 mil up front, or something like that? What if their demands on how that money is paid is something that United can't do? We know they've structured deals over the course of the summer to pay in certain installments. Brighton are in a cash-rich position. They might not even need to bother entertaining that, knowing that in a year's time they can probably sell the player for as much, if not more money, and there will be more clubs on the table that they can play off each other. I don't know. We'll see. But to continue, It is anticipated, therefore, that deal will now not materialise. Moving to Old Trafford appeals to Baleba, so personal terms would have presented no problem. And the Cameroon international is prepared to keep pushing, even if it means waiting until the future. That does not suggest he's unhappy at Brighton, and the dialogue's been cordial, with United respecting their stance. There's also an acceptance at United that while they admire Baleba and the interest remains strong, he only has 2 Premier League campaigns under his belt and is still developing. United have already invested heavily on players at peak age, etc., etc. There's internal satisfaction at inbound business to date. They want to be financially disciplined, and a significant amount of work also needs to be done on departures. Made 40 appearances last season, lots and lots more. Like Fabian Herzler said earlier today that he was confident that this would happen. I think it does seem like there's a lot of posture in here, but this has obviously come through in the last. There's been murmurs of this all day that United had taken this position and it wasn't going to happen. But I kind of was in my mind waiting for just like the real, the ones that you can trust to come out to actually confirm that this was the case. And now we've obviously got to that point. So what do United do? We will wait and see. Tulip players, we're cooked. United knew it would be over 100 million. Fools. Yeah, look, I understand frustration. Grace says, we never wanted Baleba anyway. Right. Suvik again says, we can't fix every problem in one window. That's an over-the-top expectation. I do think United do still need a midfielder, and they do need a goalkeeper. Maybe now that they know that they don't have this massive outlay coming out this year, which everybody would have wanted to happen anyway once it was kind of put out there. Maybe they do go cheaper. Maybe they do go on. Maybe they can now go for Lamans, I don't know. They still need to get a goalkeeper out. But like today, Toby Collier has gone out on loan. So United are down one midfielder. They will go and sign a midfielder. I'm pretty sure of that because they're too light. But obviously Mason Mount can maybe play in there now as well, Ruben Amorim has said. But what do? Do they keep their powder dry and not sign a midfielder? I don't know. What I want United to not do is go panic, I didn't want them necessarily to have their pants completely pulled down by Brighton in this negotiation, which is maybe what would have happened if it was 115 million. I think we were all talking about it, hoping that could be in the 100 million range and maybe not that far above. But that is a lot of money. It's a hell of a lot of money. And United then run the risk of being accused again of overpaying. So I don't know. Keep the talks on for me. I think the best way to go about this is try and keep the talks on and try and get this locked in. Because I think if they leave this till next summer and there is no agreement in place with Brighton or the player, that there's a big risk that he could go somewhere else. I think we can all acknowledge that. There are clubs in better positions. I don't think it's a necessary guarantee. Nish Fan has said he's obviously going to City next year. I like that City project for me. Pep's going to go soon. I don't think it's what it was previously. I don't know. We'll see. Jonathan says, you say we're short, but we still got 4 players for 2 spots. Casemiro, Garte, Menu, and Bruno. Kone possibly, but that's a lot for 1 game a week. And maybe. You got 2 defensive players there and 2 number 8s kind of thing. So maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, Jonathan. Maybe you're right indeed. Maybe they don't sign one. But I think everybody could recognize really that United do need a midfielder. I think so anyway. Right. Again, United supporters want us to be more sensible until it's the player they really want. Suvik says, I'm with you, mate. We need a goal. We needed goals too, and they went and got us a brand new front 3. Let's wait and see what they do in midfield. It's obviously a priority. I think the club knows it's a priority, personally, as well. I think this Niche Fan, I think the staffing, just in terms of numbers, I think it was bloated. If the club feel like they can proceed on 450 less staff, and they, it does give you a sense of it being bloated. Jarl again says, I can understand it's disappointing that we did not get Baleba. I'm glad United stopped now instead of throwing mud at the wall to see if it sticks. I'm sure they're already working on someone. I'm sure they do have other targets in mind as well. Fred says, hello, mate. Hi, Scott. Does next year mean January or next summer waiting for selling results might be in a factor in this? I know it is a bit of a concerning development in the sense of if United do feel like they can go and get this done next summer because they'll have the money by that point, there might be no guarantee that the player actually goes there. There are other clubs in the country that have money that are in better positions than United at the moment. So if they're willing to take that risk, I think it has potential to blow up in their face. It absolutely does. Ed, hello, mate, says, Baleba is just the player that Collier Kone will be once they develop. There's plenty of alternatives for way less money. It just means the treble this season is unlikely. There are alternatives. There obviously are alternatives as well. Come on, man. Like, come on. I can't entertain that, unfortunately. I just can't. Just like if this news hadn't come out in the first place, I don't think you'd have had the same kind of attitude towards them. The fact that it was kind of teased and dangled there that United were trying to do this and now it's been taken away means that you know, it kind of sours things a bit. And yes, also O'Brien says here from the very beginning, everybody credible said it would be a difficult deal to do from the start. It was the fan base that ran with it. And of course, yes, of course. I think we all like looked at this and thought that maybe Ineos are like, what they've done this summer so far is they have kind of put it out there that they want to play and then generally got them. So they must have had confidence. But, I think if they were hoping that this would come in at like 100 million, then maybe that was something doable. But like if you jump into 115 Moises Caicedo kind of money, I think that is an extra stretch, you know. But I don't know, man. There is a chance that we are this bloody button. There's a chance that we're done doing business this summer. Could United try and go for Wharton? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But I'd imagine if Crystal Palace now know that United were entertaining the potential of a bid for £100 million player, that they will also hack the price up of Adam Wharton as well. So maybe you need to go somewhere else for me. I think you need to look at other leagues and value in other leagues. That's probably the best way to go if you do want that, you know, athletic number 6 that we've been talking about for a while. Steve says, we could do with that type of player, but 115 is too much. We've plenty of cover in midfield, but only a domestic schedule. Yeah, I think so. I do still think, though, that they will sign one. I'm not sure. Suvic says, no player is now or never. I remember missing out on Ronaldinho to Barcelona, and what happened was we ended up getting Cristiano instead. Yeah, it's true. I think Baleba has been like the ideal kind of player that United should be signing. We've all acknowledged that, and that's okay. But it's a lot of money to put down. It's a lot of money to put down. If you're new here, by the way, Lucien Agume, I think Jonathan's talking about there. Look, I don't know too much about him. I don't know too much about these alternative players that have been lined up. But you have a team in scouting, and you have a data team and all this kind of thing that will know a hell of a lot better than us. So what I'd like to see, and what I've wanted United to do at points over the course of the last few months, is go and pick a player out that is who would Brighton sign when Baleba went. You know, go and get that player instead. You know, and maybe one of those players like a Lamine Camara or an Agume is that kind of player. Go and do that. United, like you say, they aren't in Europe this year. So it's all about making sure that the team is able to compete in the Premier League. And there is I think I like the signings that they've made so far in terms of their physicality, but there is an obvious deficiency in the midfield area there. Even Amorim said it himself, that they've not been sharp enough in midfield. If you're new here, I was saying this just now, if you're new here and you have not subscribed to the channel already, please do. I'm like really close to the first kind of milestone on the channel, but I haven't had any new subscribers since I've started this video. But if you are not subscribed already, please do subscribe to the channel, because I'll be doing more of these over the course of the season to come. It's good fun with you guys here, and I do need as well to actually do another podcast. So maybe I won't another podcast for the audio version of this. So I maybe won't be going for too long today, but I would really appreciate if you could subscribe. Also, guys, if now there's more of you here as well, I said this at the start of the stream. If you want to, like, obviously the football season starts tonight. If you want to join a new Fantasy Premier League, the Promised Land League, there is a link in the description. It was pointed out to me that I should make one earlier today on Twitter. So there is a link. I think is it at the top? Let me just check. Yes, there is an FPL link in the description. If you want to join that and you do play it, then please do, because I would like to see who's keen, who wants to play. But maybe I will talk a little bit about the Arsenal game as well, as I've been asked here about by Suvik. Maybe I'll jump into that in just a second. But yeah, I'm seeing lots of Lucien Agume, Lamine Kamara stuff. Look, I don't know. It's up to the club. It's up to the club, you know. Barlow says, what happened on the night in Mingan? I don't know, mate. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening. We did talk about maybe doing a new show for the season. If you guys think that it's something that you want, let me know. Fly in our DMs or whatever. And maybe we can bring something up. I don't know. Manpreet says, I guess it's time for hysteria now. A month ago, this fan base was down low with no expectations. Now we're going crazy for not being able to complete a £115 million transfer. Yes, it's true. That's true. Mikey says, Casemiro and Bruno are surely leaving next summer. Get in a midfielder now and go all in for Baleba next summer. Most of the squad seems sorted. Doesn't need a full reset next summer. Look, I spoke about this. Yeah, maybe you go and get in that alternative midfielder that you maybe would end up getting next summer. Maybe switch it over or something like that. Maybe go get Lamans in or something, and we can go from there. Yeah, look, there's still 2 weeks left of the window. You know, it's not. There are other players in the world. You know, as much as he would have been the ideal one, there are other players out there. It's up to the club to be smart with this. You know. Ed says, Brighton have a player out on loan who's ripening for Baleba's sale next year. They know how to make things work well. And yes, of course they do. They're really good at this. This squad, as it is, will finish 9th to 12th. Midfield was the most glaring issue when we head into the season with Casemiro as a starter. Let's not even talk goalkeeper. Like I say, there are 2 weeks left of this window. 2 weeks left. So maybe they will sign one. All you need is a bit of legs in there. There are other players out there. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. Should we jump into the Arsenal game a little bit, as I was asked by Suvik earlier? How are you feeling about the Arsenal game? So, this news today has kind of like popped the bubble a little bit, hasn't it? I think there was a bit of optimism around, obviously he was never coming in for this Arsenal game anyway, but there was a bit of optimism around the season. And obviously this coming out like on the day of the season actually starting, it kind of has popped the bubble a bit of the optimism of the fan base. So that's an interesting thing. Wouldn't have made a difference to that game, but there is more. Like, there's definitely more to get out of the team of players that are currently there. So we'll see. And United, even with the players that they had last season, managed to hang with Arsenal at the Emirates last season and at Old Trafford. They actually played pretty well that day at Old Trafford, didn't they? And drew 1-1. They've added more goals to the attack. Grace says 8-2. I don't think so. As much as you can joke about it, that would be lovely to see. But 8-2, don't think that's maybe going to happen. How am I feeling? I want to see United make a statement, you know, and am I confident that will happen? Not really, but I kind of have seen enough from them in pre-season to think that they may bring the intensity up a little bit. It's a new season. They've talked about good atmosphere in the camp and moving past last season and going into this with a fresh mindset and all this kind of thing. And Arsenal is a really, really good test. It's a difficult one, obviously, but it's a good test. If United can come through this and make a statement and end up winning, no matter how it happens, that will really kick off the season and make it a good start. Like, as Suvik says there, yeah, put it on them. Like, get in there, get stuck in, and make a statement that this is not the team that we were watching last season. This is an improved version of that. There are players who look leaner, like better attitudes, and I think there is reason for optimism, but you need to see that it's actually coming through first. You need proof in the pudding to actually start to believe. And I think it will take some time for people to build that up. It'll also be very, very easy to break if all the optimism is going to go. If United don't beat Arsenal or don't or lose to them, like God forbid, I think everybody's going to start losing their minds again off the back of this Baleba news as well. So it's obvious that this will take time, and it's important to say as well, there is 37 more games left after this game, and Arsenal one of the best teams in the country. But it's interesting because United might have a brand new front three actually taken to the pitch for this game. So you got Cunha, you got Brian and Mbeumo, who are the two number 10s. That will probably mean that Bruno Fernandes plays in the 8, and I'm not 100% sure if this is the right way to go. I said on the stream yesterday, that I thought he would maybe go with Bruno as one of the 10s and then Mbeumo or Cunha through the middle, and maybe Ugarte and Mainu midfield, because I think that is the midfield pair that seems to have the most about it in terms of like balance, I suppose. But his comments on Sesko today made me kind of believe that he's going to start him. He's going to throw him in from the very beginning. So you'd think that Cunha and Mbeumo, and I think that Sesko will start after what he said. He spoke about not having kind of a striker to bounce off after the friendly against Fiorentina last week. He played Mason Mount through the middle. Sesko's now come in. He said he's ready physically. I'm quite excited to see that. I'm quite excited to see if he's going to start. I think he will start. But I don't know. This isn't necessarily the case, man. Like the new front three players up top means nothing if midfield is bagel. Like, of course, the midfield's a problem that you need to address at some point. But again, United didn't concede tons and tons of goals last season under Ruben Amorim, even with the midfield that they have. The problem was scoring goals last year. So it's important to kind of not lose your mind about just one transfer, which is a club record deal not coming off one day. It's all right to be, upset about it and this kind of thing and disappointed because you thought that this one might happen. You had a bit of confidence that the club was going in the right direction. I feel that too, but it's not the end of the world, Grace says, I know this isn't an Arsenal channel, but do you think Arteta should have been sacked by now? No, personally. I think this year you can start the conversations if he doesn't win anything this year, I think, for me. But what he's done at Arsenal over the last few years is akin to, remember Arsenal when he took them over? United are going through that kind of thing now. You need to have consistency. You need to have a plan. And Arsenal had a plan and stuck to it. They signed players to a philosophy. They didn't go and sign only towards the end or at the peak time do they go and sign a player for 100 million quid or whatever. In Declan Rice. And United need to do that as well at some point. They need to get that kind of midfield linchpin. Maybe it's just not right now. But Amorim's had 6, 8, 9 months or whatever it is. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's time to deliver for Arsenal this year. They haven't really got any excuses anymore. They've signed the striker who scores goals. Their team defensively is probably the best in the country. They've got a good balance in midfield. They've signed a European Championship winning midfielder in Zubamendi. The team looks nearly done. Maybe they need one more player or something like that, but they should be in the mix. If they don't win anything this year, how long do you stick with him? I don't know. If Sesko's able to start, we might be in business. Yeah, potentially. I do think there's a lot to be made of that as well. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for him to... There's nothing quite like playing in the Premier League. I think it's a bit of a shock to the system for a lot of players. It might take him a little bit of time to get used to things, but he is massive. He's 6'5", fair all weight to him, very strong, very quick, can run the channels. It'd be a really interesting match against Saliba and Gabriel, who are probably two of the most unforgiving and physical and quick and strong centre-backs in the country. It's probably the hardest test outside of Van Dijk, maybe, that he will get in the league this entire season and right from the very beginning. So I don't know. But I think what United need to do is get up the pitch. The problem that they had a lot of the time and why Højlund's been criticised so much is because the ball doesn't stick to him. United aren't able to build attacks. Let's see if Sesko improves that. What United have done in pre-season a lot of the time is loft that ball forward to one of the number 10s or to the striker and try and play off them and break really quickly with the wing backs, maybe Ahmad or something like that, making runs off of that pass that comes back from the striker into Bruno Fernandes or one of the 10s or something like that. Ahmad and Dorgu should fly on, and we'll see. Maybe he actually starts Dalot at right back. I don't know, right wing back. I don't know, for that defensive, ability. But we'll see. Suvic says their midfield is exceptional. I don't trust their forward line. Madueke is thoroughly average. I'm not going to say that just in case he scores at the weekend, but you love Dalot, Grace, don't you? Yeah, Dalot for captain. I don't think Xerxes will play just because he hasn't really had. I don't think he'll do that. I think we're talking about I'm seeing a lot of calls for Bruno Fernandes as a false 9 or for the front 2 to be split and drop the 10 in. That's not the system. The system is he wants a striker that he can play off, And Sesko, physically seems to be the build and the mold that striker is. He wants them to be quick. He wants them to run the channels. He wants them to go up against defenders. It's a very specific way of playing, and United have built their attack, I think, very specifically to what Ruben Amorim wants. Just got the dog coming up next to me. But, right. Hjulmand, I think I'm seeing some of you guys talk about Hjulmand. I think Simon Stone put that out there earlier, but I read it was very, very speculative that he might be leaving Sporting this summer. But yes, this is a good reminder here. Never too high, never too low. Of course, it's all right to kind of be disappointed and this kind of thing, but never too high, never too low. You will need to be patient here because this is a longer term job than just getting it all done in one summer. That's just the case. But don't underestimate the fact that United, look, I'm not saying that the midfield won't get run through at times, but maybe United will play in a little bit deeper and go a little bit more defensive in that sense. But the opportunities to go and play on the break might be well improved with a striker like Sesko starting from the start. All the indications today, I think I've got his quotes here somewhere. The indications from today are that, for me, I think I got the feeling that he would start. We didn't have a lot of time, but he's ready. First of all, physically, he's ready. That's a big component in our league. Then he's really smart. Every detail he asks, he's a guy that is always thinking. He spends all afternoon here working on his fitness, so he's ready to play. We will see if he's going to start, but he kind of said it with a smile. And another thing that he said as well, because we're all talking about that front 3 being all signed this summer, being a lock for this. And he's very keen to kind of get across that this is going to be a team game. Sorry, the dog is right next to me here. It's going to be like a competition for places is going to be really, really important because there's lots of players who are going to be vying for those 2 positions. He said, first of all, we have more than 3 players, Cunha and Mbumo Sesko, so they're fighting for their places, but I'm really happy. I think he has great potential in everything he does. He can play different types of football. He'll feel the Premier League is very aggressive. He's going to learn and he has great potential. So, yeah. It's Suvik just said here, I think the way that he's spoken about Sesko today gives me encouragement that he really likes the player, that he's ready to throw him in from the beginning as well. Maybe he won't, I don't know. But I'd be surprised if he went with Mason Mount through the middle again or with Højlund at all, because I don't think Højlund's getting any minutes either. Rugby Itch, and there's a couple of you who said this, just joined the FPL League, excited for another season of the Premier League. Peter O'Leary as well said, just joined FPL TPL. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Fantasy Premier League, the Promised Land podcast. And yeah, the link's in the description for that. Jonathan Ball. Remember, we absolutely bulldozed Zubamendi when we played Sociedad, a player who himself has to get used to a new country and a new league. Of course. Of course. I think you're looking a bit too much into this, man. I don't think the club are kind of putting out that they want to sign a player off the basis of a protest. I really don't. Show the dog. Try and pick her up. Come here, please. She's trying to get away, actually. Come up here. I can't pick her up. She was wriggling around too much. But yeah, Suvik, you've not done FPL, but she's gone now, by the way. Sorry, Grace. Never done FPLs. I'll join, but give it a try here. Please do. You haven't got much time actually to pick your team. I think because the game kicks off at 8, you might have till you might have 40 minutes or so to pick your team. Guys, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I need like 17 more subscribers to get to 1,000. And it's taken to get a YouTube channel off the ground is such a pain. And if you're new here, I would really, really appreciate it if you do subscribe, because I'm really close now to that subscriber number, that first milestone. Yeah, maybe Ugarte plays. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that he'll go Bruno Casemiro, but we'll see. Maybe the plan for this game will be Bruno Casemiro playing a little bit deeper, condensing the space, because Casemiro obviously can't run around too much. You condense the space, you try and hit Arsenal on the break. Maybe that's the way that it goes. And that won't be the way that United want to play for the entire season, but there's going to be needs must. There's going to be different players coming in for different matches, and everybody has to kind of get on board with that. The United just need to go into games, and that while a philosophy is super important, if they're going to change the way that they play to win a specific game, I would prefer them to do that because the points are important. The style will come, I think. 12. I know you love the channel. Thanks very much, man. But I just don't agree, to be honest. I think there is lots more that you can get out of these players, personally. Did I just read this one out? I can't remember. Mike says, got to be honest, I'm a little bit worried now. Great 3 attacking signs, but when you finish 15th, there are clearly issues across the whole pitch. We need to find an alternative ASAP to give me confidence. The players finished 15th last year because they were adjusting to a new system. They weren't fit enough for that new system. The club were getting rid of people all around them. The attitude was completely, it was like down on the ground. The entire club was in flux. I think they've come out of that period now. There's this group of players together as a combination combined are better than 15th. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. They are better than 15th. It's just everything it was all an amalgamation last season of just crap. Everything hitting the fan at once. And I think they knew that they were doing that with the opportunity to look ahead and make a fresh start for the start of this season. Jonathan says, yeah, Bruno Casemiro seems likely for this game, but I'd like Ugarte, Casemiro with Bruno joining the top 3, Sesko to make an impact as a sub. Maybe he does that. Maybe he does. But I know that he's been talking a lot about that, having that player, that number 9 to play off. Maybe. I just got the feeling today from watching him in his press conference that Sesko would end up starting, but we'll see. I don't know. The good thing is United have options. My concern is pressing. Manpreet says, in pre-season, we've been good at pressing with Mount and Cunha and Mbumo. Not sure if Sesko will be ready in that first game. Yeah, pressing is going to be a problem, obviously. But there are other ways. I do think United will still get a midfielder before the end of the window. We'll start talking at 115. Yeah. Is that what it was? Rugby itch here. Yeah, I honestly think United can get 5th or 6th. Just you need United to be more clinical. Yeah. They didn't score enough goals last year. 44 goals last year in the Premier League. TK says, where does Mainu fit in this team? 0 mentions about him. I think Mainu might have to be patient for the year. And I don't know how comfortable he will be with doing that. But for me, I see Mainu as Bruno Fernandes' successor in one of those 2 deep midfield roles. Ironically, I thought Mainu and Baleba would be like a kind of perfect match of skills, because Baleba has the mobility to be able to get around the pitch to cover for Mainu's. There are some deficiencies in this game, obviously. But I think for me, Mainu is still only 20 years old. So there is time for him to develop. You don't want to rush him and play him in every single minute of every single game. Am I back? Are you still here? Am I back? And are you still here? Does this work? Please let me know. I tell you what, guys, thank you very much. If you are still here, like my internet just completely died, and I am not in my own property at the moment, and the internet is terrible here. So I think I'm getting a signal that maybe I should actually wrap this up because there's lots of stuff going on, and I really appreciate it. We're alive, pal. Right. I think this is a sign for me that I should probably wrap this up today because I think there's other stuff that I need to do. The internet is like my internet signal is very, very low at the moment, and I think this is just the right time to do it, the right way to go. Look, now that I'm just say this again. Please subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. It won't always be terrible internet like this. I can promise you, I can assure you, but just today it seems to have like completely fallen off or whatever. But yeah, keep jumping in the comment section on your thoughts on the Mbeumo, not the Mbeumo stuff, the Baleba stuff and all this kind of thing. It's a big blow that United aren't getting in, but please subscribe to the channel on audio, Spotify, Apple. Join the FPL League as well if you've not done so already. And guys, I'll see you soon. Let's hope that the Arsenal game is a positive one. I might be back for another video before that game. I want to look ahead to the game, actually. And I have other podcasts to do as well. So join the audio platforms and this kind of thing and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Marcus, thanks for joining. Sorry you missed the show, but I need to kind of call this off now because of the internet being problematic. But see you soon, guys. Have a great weekend.